Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Sony Pro Audio Files. My name is Andy Munitz, Senior Product Manager for Sony's Professional Audio Division. And in this video, we'll go into the operation of our latest models in our DWX series of digital wireless microphones for ENG use. Before we learn how to set things up, just a very quick review of our DWX series. Most importantly, it's a wireless mic setup that uses a complete digital transmission scheme. Even though it uses the same channels as our UWPD series and can coexist in the same environment as them, the DWX series actually sends digital data and offers unparalleled sound quality equal to 48K 24-bit, or as we like to think of it, the same as plugging in a mic with a cable. The system offers true double tuner diversity for each of the two channels of the receiver, providing the maximum in signal stability and reliability, and also provides for a direct integration with Sony's own line of shoulder-style camcorders. This means that the critical audio path, starting with the mic at the transmitter, goes through an A to D converter, stays digital as it gets sent to the receiver, and then becomes part of the video file. It then goes through post-production digitally and can even make it all the way to the home TV receiver before it gets turned back into analog for the first time through the TV's D to A converters. This keeps the audio sounding pure. Because of the tight integration with our line of Sony shoulder cams, monitoring and various control modes of the wireless microphone system can even be done through the viewfinder of the camera. The complete DWX lineup includes multiple transmitters, such as the DWT-B30 body pack, the DWT-B03R micro body pack, the DWM-02N handheld mic, the DWT-P30 plug-on transmitter, as well as the DWR-R03D dual-channel rack receiver. In this video, though, we'll be focusing on our latest DWR-S03D two-channel slot-in receiver, as well as the DWT-B30 body pack and DWT-P30 plug-on transmitter. These models all support access to all of the UHF spectrum allowed by the FCC repack without blocks and covers UHF TV channels from 14 up through 38, or 470 MHz up through 616 MHz. These models also now offer a new method of scanning for both channels, all in one function that can really streamline the process. The DWR-S03D adheres to the unislot size standard and superslot functionality for compatibility with many location sound systems and accessories. Perhaps the most interesting feature of our DWX wireless microphone series, though, is the ability to remotely control the Talent's transmitter from the camera, from up to about 30 feet away, via a dedicated special 2.4 GHz cross-remote signal. This allows for the monitoring and control of the audio, including the transmitter settings right from the camera position, which is especially important when the camera operator is also the audio engineer. It even allows for putting the paired transmitters to sleep automatically when you power down your Sony shoulder cam and waking them back up when you turn the camera back on. For those of you who already have this system, though, the most important thing for you to know is how to quickly pair up the transmitter and receiver, which you'll have to do only once, by the way, and then how to quickly scan for the best available channels at your current location. First, let's just look at the layout of both the slot-in receiver and the transmitter. On the transmitter, the body pack in this case, there's a set button on the left and a plus and minus or up-down button on the right of the OLED display. These buttons will allow you to navigate through the menus should you need to. That said, as the body pack is remote controllable from the receiver, most changes to settings on the transmitter can be done from the camera position. On the slot-in receiver, notice the menu button on the upper left, which allows you to navigate through the two-channel Overview Utility menu to each channel's receiver and paired transmitters menu, RX1, TX1, RX2, and TX2. Below that is a set button that locks in your menu choice. And on the right is a plus and minus or up-down button for scrolling through each submenu's choices. Also on the lower top surface of the unit are a power switch for both channels 1 and channel 2. So let's pair this transmitter to channel 1 of the receiver using the cross remote function. Start by simply powering on your transmitter while holding down the minus button. This will make the transmitter discoverable by the receiver. The unit will then show scanning on the OLED display. On the slot-in receiver, pick either channel, in this case channel 1, and power it up, also while holding down the minus button. It will then search for any discoverable transmitters and will quickly begin flashing the name of the transmitter it just found. Initially, the transmitter name will just be a model name with code, but you can change this to show a talent's name, for example, or simply body pack ENG as we have here. Next, hit the Set button on the receiver to select that unit, and the two devices will then begin sharing information, confirming their metadata link, and soon the receiver will flash pairing done. And that's it for the pairing step. Although you can go far deeper into the menus of these units to accomplish this pairing procedure, this shortcut method is the easiest and quickest. To confirm that the two units are paired, look for the double arrows or cross-remote indicator along with a 3-segment bar graph meter showing the strength of this metadata control signal. And don't forget, this procedure only needs to be done once. Even if you power the units off and on, they will remain paired. If you have a second transmitter, it can be paired to the receiver's second channel through the same procedure. To get the optimum performance from your DWX wireless system, every time you shoot at a new location, you might consider doing a clear channel scan. And there's a simple shortcut for this procedure as well. As mentioned earlier, there's a shortcut for a very useful method for scanning the entire FCC spectrum and setting up both channels in one function. So let's start with that procedure. On the receiver, just hit both the menu and set button together. This is the shortcut for telling the receiver to scan this very wide spectrum, and do so while in group D9. It will ask if you want to start the auto scan sync function. Just hit the set button to start the scan. It will then put both paired transmitters into sleep mode so that they don't affect the scan. And after about 50 seconds, the unit will offer up the two best frequencies it found in the UHF 14 to 38 range, flashing their channel numbers and frequencies alternately. Just hit the Set button again and confirm that you want to send Channel 1's receiver frequency to Transmitter 1 and Channel 2's receiver frequency to Transmitter 2. Hit the Set button once more and it will say Complete. The units will have communicated the information to their paired transmitters and you're done. By the way, if the suggested frequencies are not what you'd like to use, or if they exist in a range that is not used by one of our older Spectrum Block version models, when it's flashing those frequencies, you can hit the Set button and the display will say RX1 to TX1 and RX2 to TX2. Then hit the plus button and the receiver will say another band. Hit Set again and it will offer up two additional frequencies. You can keep repeating this process until you're happy with the suggested frequencies. For me, this is by far the easiest method to use for those that want to scan for available frequencies, regardless of which city in North America you are in. Of course, some TV stations like to assign frequencies to their photogs to always use. But this method can get you out of trouble if you need the most recent and open frequencies in your location. Next, let's look at the traditional way of scanning and pairing up each channel, one channel at a time. Although the previous method of finding two channels at a time is useful, it's good to know this traditional method as well. With the transmitter still on, simply power down the receiver channel you want to use and power it back up, but now this time while holding down the plus button. The unit will then scan for the channels in the group and specific band range that you've assigned. By the way, I might suggest that you watch another video we have posted titled UWPD and DWX Wireless Microphone Channels and Groups to help explain what a group and band range is. Once the receiver scan finds the best channel, it will flash it at you. To select it, just hit the Set button. It will then ask if you want to send that group and channel selection to the paired transmitter, and it will flash the word Yes. Hit the Set button, and it will say Complete when it's finished setting the transmitter to your selected channel. The two reception meters on the display will now show full and strong. That's it. If you have a second transmitter, repeat the process with channel 2. But remember to leave that first transmitter turned on so channel 2's scan sees it and doesn't suggest the same channel as used in the first channel. If you're using only a couple of channels, you could use group 00 for the widest possible scan, looking through its 188 available frequencies in the selected band. You might also set the receiver to group D9 for a quicker scan of a subset of 48 compatible frequencies in your selected channel band for all DWX system multi-channel use. To change the group or manually change the TV or microphone channel, when on the RX or receiver screen, just hold down the Set button for about 2 seconds, and then use the up-down buttons to change the value. Then the Set button again for TV and mic channel, and then the Set button again to lock in your choice. If you have more than 2 transmitters and want to use additional receivers, you might want to make sure that all channels are set to group D9. To change the band range that you scan in, go to each receiver channel's menu and change the band range setting to perform a scan in that specific range of frequencies. Both channels will want to be set in the same band range. If you want to go a bit deeper into the menus for controlling either of the receiver channels or for controlling the paired transmitter from the receiver, notice that on the receiver, you can change the display to show different top menu views by hitting the menu button. In this case, we'll start by looking at RX1, or Receiver 1. We can see an audio level meter, the QL or bitstream quality level of our transmission, and the relative strength of both the A and B tuner sections for that particular channel. By the way, it's good that the A and B indication are flashing back and forth, as that shows the diversity tuner selection function is working, designed to prevent dropouts due to multipath interference. The group number is next, UHF TV station number, in this case 22, and the wireless mic channel 25 as seen here. Using the up-down buttons, we can then see the band menu to change the selection of the 3 frequency bands available, previously referred to either TV 14 through 17, 18 to 21, or 22 to 25. In the utility menu, which is the menu that shows both channels at the same time, the first menu to be selected is the band block menu. That can change the block from 14 to 25 to 26 through 38. The next menu is for frequency input or direct frequency entry. In other words, if, for example, you are working with a frequency coordinator on site at a large sporting event or convention, for example, and if you get assigned a specific frequency to use, this menu allows you to enter that channel's frequency directly, digit by digit, down to a 25 kilohertz resolution. Once activated, just keep hitting the Set button to advance to the next digit, and use the plus and minus buttons for changing the digit. The last 2 digits can be stepped through in increments of 25 kilohertz. Next up is the Active Channel Scan menu. Active Scan is a scanning function that will look for any active DWX transmitters already in use in a particular group and band, allowing you to quickly choose to listen in to any of the transmitters in a multi-channel mic setup. Next is Clear Channel Scan. We've seen that we can do a simple shortcut to this function, though, as discussed above, by powering on a channel while holding down the plus button. That said, the clear channel scan method is another method of scanning for the quietest channels to use. Once selected with the Set button, confirm that you want to start a scan. Once the scan is finished, by hitting the plus button repeatedly, you can scroll through the available found channels kept in the receiver's memory, looking at their amount of background noise in dB for selection and pairing with the transmitter. By the way, a very low rating of 0 dB is best, but the system will work with background noise up to as high as about 20 dB. By repeating this clear channel scan in all of the band menu choices, you can note which band offers the most and quietest available channels according to their dB reading of background noise. Once determined, future scans in that location can be done with the simpler shortcut methods in the best band you might have previously found. If only looking for a wireless channel or two, however, the simple scanning method or the full spectrum scan method should provide good channel choices. Next is the Search Transmitter menu. This function allows for quick searching of paired transmitters, and once activated, the display on the transmitter will flash. We follow that with an RF squelch setting for only a very specialized application when a second DWX transmitter is close by on the same frequency. Next is the ability to set up an encrypted secure transmission in either of 3 modes. Password mode can set up multiple transmitters and receivers to all be part of the same password encryption group. The secure key mode is compatible with first and second generation DWX series devices. The AES-256 mode uses AES 256-bit encryption for a higher level of security in transmissions. Make sure the same mode is set on both the transmitters and receivers. Next is codec mode. Here, you are able to select up to 4 different codecs that need to match on both the receiver channel and associated transmitter. Latency times as short as 1.2 milliseconds can be achieved with codec 2, and codec 3 can add an extra layer of error correction and protection against unexpected pulse interference, such as walkie-talkies, for example. Next is a menu for specific system delay readout only for when using the receiver, optionally mounted outside of the camera's slot, for example in an accessory sled mount. Hitting the menu button again will bring up the TX1, or Transmitter Control menu for Channel 1. Scrolling through this submenu for the transmitter will give us the ability to see and remotely control the settings on the paired transmitter, again from a distance of up to about 30 feet away. From here, you can see the name of the paired transmitter. It can be changed on the transmitter's own menu rather than from the receiver position in this case. Following this is a menu for changing the microphone's input attenuation to properly match the level of the signal coming in from the microphone into the transmitter's preamp section. One can listen to the mic to properly adjust this for the best sound quality. Next is a menu that allows for changing the LCF, or low-cut frequency filter, in 15 different steps to help reduce wind, rumble, or other background noise. Both of these settings can have a valuable impact on the sound and quality of your signal, so have a chance to listen to these choices and experiment a bit. And don't forget to reset to no low-cut filter if that's best for other shots. The next menu is for setting a lock function on the transmitter, so it can't be powered down or have its menu changed by mistake. This setting can be reset to normal unlocked mode as well through the use of cross-remote pairing. Next up is Power Save. The choices here are active and sleep. This setting allows for remotely putting the transmitter into a low-power sleep mode, allowing you to save batteries during a production break, for example. Again, it's good to know that this mode can be controlled through and made to follow the Sony shoulder cam's power state. Input level is next, and this can be changed from mic to line level. Next is a setting for changing the paired transmitter's power output level from low 2 milliwatt, mid 10 milliwatt, or high 25 milliwatt. Understand, though, that higher power levels normally associated with analog wireless systems are not required for digital transmission. After this, we see a menu for 48-volt function for remotely turning on phantom power for the DWX series plug-on transmitter. If you're using a stick or shotgun mic that needs phantom power, this can remotely turn on that phantom power. The next menu shows the transmitter's count-up battery timer. When you install new batteries in the transmitter, go to its time menu and reset it to 0. And then you'll have an accurate readout on the receiver of how long, down to the minute and hour, that the transmitters have been turned on for. The RF remote submenu is next. It will toggle on and off the cross remote feature as well as setup for the pairing procedure. As we've seen earlier, you have a shortcut for the cross remote pairing function that prevents having to navigate to this menu to set things up. Finally, continuing to scroll through the menu button, we'll change the menu display readout to RX2, the second receiver channel, and TX2 or transmitter 2, if these are both turned on and active. Following this is a display that gives a quick readout of both channels 1 and 2 at the same time, showing the audio level for both, the digital quality of the bit stream for each, the battery life icon of the associated transmitter, and an RF meter for each of the A and B tuner sections for each channel. That's about it for the main menu items. Again, the shortcuts mentioned earlier in this video will likely be the ones that will get you set up and going quickly. And the shortcut for channel scanning specifically will likely be the one you use fairly regularly. Though it's good to know what the other controls and menus do on these units, you might not need them very often. Now, even though once the transmitters are paired to the receiver and most of the menus of the transmitter can be controlled from the camera or mixer position, there are a few menus on the transmitters themselves that are good to know about. Perhaps one of the interesting things to realize about the transmitters are that even though there are many menus, there are just a handful of menus that are deemed a bit too dangerous to be changed, perhaps by mistake, while in the middle of a broadcast. These menus can only be locally changed at the transmitter position while it has been powered up in a safe mode. Once changed at the transmitter, it must be powered off and then back on again in order for the unit to start transmitting again. These few special menus include those for manually changing the channel and group at the transmitter, the specific band range of transmission, and the power level setting. Some of the local menus of the transmitter that can be set but do not normally show up in the transmitter's remote control menu at the receiver include the following. First, you can change the name of the transmitter from the model and serial number that it comes defaulted to. Please refer to the menu's button commands or the ops manual for entering up to the maximum 16 characters. The transmitter name is sent to the receiver as metadata and is used by the receiver to distinguish between different transmitters. Next is the band menu, which normally follows the channel and band that the paired receiver sends to the transmitter. Following that is the group and channel menu. These menus are normally changed through the pairing process, but can be manually changed at the transmitter through the safe mode just described. Audio attenuation and low-cut filter menus are next, whose functions have been previously described. Next is the lock function menu. This can lock and prevent operations, such as those for the power button and for settings changes. This prevents the talent from accidentally turning the unit off, for example. Unlock. This default setting disables the lock function for the power button and any settings. The power menu option locks only the power button, and the setting menu selection locks only any settings changes. The Power Plus setting option locks both the power button and settings change operations. To reset any of these locking changes, one simply holds down the Set button until the menu flashes, and then just chooses Unlock again. There are a couple of button shortcuts to turning on and off the Power Plus setting function. In order to enable the lock function, just hold down the Set and Plus button until the lock icon displays on the menu. And to turn off the locking function, just hold down the Set and Minus button until the lock icon disappears. Do realize, though, that even though any of these lock modes are activated on the transmitter, remote control settings of the transmitter can still be made from the receiver. The Power Save menu will still allow you to manually set the transmitter to either be active, awake, or to put it to sleep. Note that during this sleep mode, the power indicator flashes at 2-second intervals. While in sleep mode, just hit either the Set, Plus, or Minus button, change No to Yes, and hit Set to wake the unit back up. You can also just power cycle the power switch. As we discussed, this is also possible to control from the camera position. Up next is the battery type menu. This basically allows for the battery icon to accurately represent the remaining time left in the batteries. Type 1. Select this when using AA alkaline batteries. Type 2. Use this setting for rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries with capacities of about 2,000 milliamp hours. Type 3 is for when using lithium batteries. And Type 4 is for rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries with capacities of about 2,500 milliamp hours. The cross remote RF remote menu is next and enables the use of the wireless remote control function. Off simply disables the wireless remote control function, and on enables use of the wireless remote control function. The pairing selection simply executes a new pairing, but we've already seen how powering on the unit while holding down its minus button activates this mode more easily. Selecting the Search RX function allows you to quickly locate a receiver that is set to the same frequency as the transmitter. When the receiver is found, the receiver's entire OLED display will flash black and white. A shortcut to activating this mode is to hold down both the plus button and minus button for at least 1 second at the same time. Just remember to wake up the display on the transmitter before using this shortcut. Next is the codec mode, as previously described in the receiver menu. This will normally get set remotely when pairing a receiver and transmitter together, but you can manually set it here. Just make sure that both the receiver channel and transmitter are set to the same codec. Normally, codec 2 is a good choice and the current default setting, but codec 3 is very useful for location sound applications as it uses additional signal processing to suppress noise caused by unexpected pulse interference, such as walkie-talkies. Next is the encryption menu as previously described. Following that is a menu for choosing whether you are inputting a mic or line level signal into the transmitter. Note that for the plug-on transmitter, following this menu is a choice for turning on phantom power or 48 volts for powering condenser-style mics. These two settings can be remote controlled from the paired receiver channel. A menu for changing the phase of the signal is next, for when a mic that outputs with inverted phase is connected. Next is a menu for having the transmitter generate a 1 kHz reference level sine wave that can be used to adjust or check the audio level of the receiver or the system you're using. By the way, this signal is not affected by the attenuation setting of the transmitter. Next up is the RF power of the transmitter. As previously described, this can be set for low 2 milliwatt, mid 10 milliwatt, or high 25 milliwatt. Again, though, this is one of those menus that can only be set when the transmitter is powered up in safe mode. Next up is the max RF power setting. This allows you to set an upper limit of the power output of the transmitter. Again, though, this is one of those settings that can also be set only when the transmitter is powered on in safe mode. It can be set as a max power setting of 2 milliwatt, 10 milliwatt, or 25 milliwatt. Following that is the time menu. When you put in fresh batteries, hold down the set button and hit the minus button and reset the timer to 0 hours and 0 minutes. It will count up from that point forward. Following this is the brightness level of the OLED display. That is up to your own preference. Following that is the display dimmer mode. In this case, it is set to always be on. Don't forget, though, that this can use up a little extra battery power. Alternately, you can have it set to automatically turn off after a period of time, or additionally, it can just be made to auto dim after a short period of time as well. Following that menu is user memory. This allows you to store the settings for all of the settings used in this transmitter. And even though you do go ahead and possibly change other settings, you can always revert back to this memory setting if you would like. Following that menu is the power priority. This can be set to use the internal battery or to use an external USB-C connected power source. This menu allows for a factory preset to its original condition. This can be useful if you're concerned that some of your settings have gone a bit off course. This final menu is just a listing of the current firmware version that is loaded into the unit. Well, that's about it. Hopefully you've found this video helpful in operating your DWX series ENG wireless kit. If you'd like more information on these or any of our other Sony professional audio products, please contact your Sony account manager or one of our Sony professional audio dealers, or visit us at pro.sony/audio. And thanks for watching.